The war room fell silent as Admiral Thorax activated the holographic display. 36 officers from 3 different species stood around the massive table, their eyes fixed on the glowing star map that filled the space above them. The Calthera system rotated slowly in the center, its 6 planets and asteroid belt rendered in perfect detail. "Gentlemen," Thorax began, his scaled hands gesturing toward the display. "Today we discuss the end of the human threat." The Vraxian admiral was tall even by his species' standards. His dark green scales caught the blue light from the hologram, making him look almost black in the dim room. Behind him, the massive viewports of the flagship Dominion's Edge showed nothing but stars and the distant glow of the Calthera sun. Commander Zresh of the Korthan warriors stepped forward. His species stood on 4 legs with a muscular upper body that held 2 powerful arms. His face was flat and broad with small eyes that saw in multiple spectrums. "We have waited long enough, Admiral. The humans expand too quickly. They claim systems that should belong to the Concordat." "Patience, Commander," said scientist Velna, the Zelthari representative. Her species was smaller, more delicate, with large heads and fingers that moved with incredible precision. "We must be certain. The humans have surprised others before." Thorax smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "That is exactly why we are here. We have spent 6 months studying the humans. We know their patterns, we know their weaknesses, and most importantly, we know they cannot see us coming." He touched the controls, and the hologram zoomed in on a specific region of the Calthera system. A purple line appeared, tracing a path through the asteroid belt and past the 4th planet. "This is Route 7, Thorax explained. "Human patrol ships use this route every 18 days. Like clockwork. They are predictable almost to the hour." "How do we know this?" asked one of the Korthan officers. Velna answered, her voice soft but clear. "We have been watching them for months. We placed monitoring stations in the outer system, small ones hidden in asteroids. The humans never found them. They pass by, their sensors sweeping, but they see nothing. Their sensor technology is primitive," Thorax added. "They rely on electromagnetic detection, basic radar, and optical scanning. Simple tools for a simple species," the other officers murmured in agreement. Everyone knew the humans were young. Their space travel technology was barely 200 years old. The Vraxians had been traveling between stars for over 3,000 years, the Korthan for 2,000. Even the Zelthari, the youngest of the Concordat species, had 1,000 years of experience in space. "Show them the ambush point," Commander Zresh said, his voice eager. Thorax nodded and manipulated the hologram again. A section of space near the 4th planet expanded to fill the display. A swirling red and orange cloud appeared, beautiful and deadly. "This is Gravity Well 74, Thorax said. "A natural gravitational anomaly. The interaction between the 4th planet and a dense cluster of heavy asteroids creates a distortion in space. Ships can hide in its shadow, completely invisible to standard sensors." Velna added, "The gravitational distortion scatters sensor beams. It creates false readings. Even our own sensors have difficulty penetrating it, and our technology is far superior to human equipment." "We have been positioning our fleet for the past week," Thorax continued. 47 ships hidden in the anomaly. Mines placed along the human patrol route. Jamming arrays ready to activate. When the humans arrive, they will be completely surrounded. One of the Vraxian officers, a younger female named Cressa, raised her hand. "What do we know about the human fleet? How many ships will there be?" Thorax pulled up another display. Images of human vessels appeared, rotating slowly. "According to our intelligence, the patrol fleet consists of 12 ships. 1 carrier, 3 cruisers, 5 destroyers, and 3 support vessels. Total crew complement approximately 8,000 humans." "Only 12 ships?" Zresh laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "We have 47. They will be destroyed in minutes." "Do not underestimate them," Velna warned. "Humans are aggressive. They fight even when they should surrender." "Let them fight," Zresh replied. "Korthan warriors welcome worthy opponents, but these humans will not be worthy. They will be surprised, confused, and defeated before they understand what is happening." Thorax brought up more information. "Our intelligence assets have been very helpful. The humans have spies, of course. All species do. But they do not know that we have found their spies. We have been feeding them false information for months." This caused excited chatter among the officers. Cressa asked, "What kind of false information?" "Everything that makes them feel safe," Thorax explained. "Reports that our fleet is engaged elsewhere. Data suggesting we have no interest in human space. False shipping schedules that place our military assets far from human borders. The humans think they know where we are. They are wrong. Velna pulled up her own datapad and projected additional information. We have also been studying human psychology. They are confident, perhaps too confident. They believe their rapid expansion makes them strong. They do not understand that rapid growth creates weakness. They stretch themselves too thin. Their communication protocols are easy to intercept, another Zelthari scientist added. We have been listening to their fleet communications for months. They use encryption, but it is simple to break. We know their command codes, their tactics, even the names of their officers. Thorax nodded approvingly. Which brings us to their fleet commander, Admiral Sarah Chen, age 47 by human years. Experienced officer with a good record. She has fought pirates and raiders. She has never fought a real military force. Images of Admiral Chen appeared in the hologram. She was a human female with dark hair pulled back from her face. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, but Thorax saw nothing there that worried him. She follows procedures, Thorax said. She is predictable. She trusts her sensors and her intelligence reports, all of which will tell her that this patrol route is safe. Commander Zresh moved closer to the hologram, studying the ambush point. Explain the attack sequence. Thorax's smile widened. Simple and effective. The human fleet will enter the Kelthera system following Route 7. They will pass through the asteroid belt, performing their standard sensor sweeps. They will find nothing unusual. As they approach the fourth planet, they will enter the kill zone. Red markers appeared in the hologram surrounding the patrol route. At my command, the mines will activate. Simultaneously, our ships will power up weapons and emerge from the gravitational anomaly. The humans will be caught in a sphere of firepower. 3 directions of attack. No escape route. What about human reinforcements? Asked Cressa. The nearest human base is 4 days away at maximum speed, Velna answered. By the time they receive a distress call and respond, the battle will be long over. And our jamming arrays will prevent any distress calls from leaving the system. Thorax continued. The attack will be quick and overwhelming. Disable their engines first, so they cannot flee. Destroy their communication arrays second, so they cannot call for help. Then we offer them surrender. If they accept, we take prisoners. If they refuse, we destroy them. What is the strategic goal? Asked one of the older Vraxian officers. Killing one patrol fleet will not stop the humans. No, Thorax agreed. But it will send a message. The humans believe they can expand without consequence. They believe their military is strong enough to protect them. This defeat will show them they are wrong. It will make them cautious. It will slow their expansion while we consolidate our own territory. And if they retaliate? The officer pressed. Let them try, Zresh growled. We will destroy their next fleet too. And the one after that. Eventually they will learn to respect concordant borders. Thorax called up a timeline. The human patrol is due to arrive in 43 hours. All ships will be in position in 30 hours. We will have 13 hours to run final checks and wait. I want every system tested 3 times. Every weapon loaded and ready. Every officer at their post. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every officer present. This is the most important military operation the Concordat has undertaken in 50 years. We have planned for months. We have prepared every detail. The humans will not escape. They will not call for help. They will not even understand what happened until it is too late. What about their carrier? Asked a Korthan tactical officer. Carriers hold fighter craft. If they launch before we attack, it could complicate things. Velna had an answer ready. Human carriers require 15 minutes to launch a full wing of fighters. Our attack sequence is designed to disable the carrier in the first 30 seconds. Targeted strikes on their flight decks and launch bays. The fighters will never leave their hangars. The briefing continued for another hour. Every officer asked questions. Every concern was addressed. Thorax had spent months planning this ambush, and it showed. Every detail had been considered. Every variable accounted for. Every risk minimized. Finally, the briefing ended. The officers filed out, returning to their ships to prepare. Only Thorax, Zresh, and Velna remained in the war room. Are you certain the humans suspect nothing? Zresh asked when they were alone. Thorax nodded. Our sources inside human space have confirmed it. The patrol fleet is following its normal schedule. No deviations. No extra security measures. Admiral Chen has filed her standard flight plan. Everything appears routine. Humans are clever sometimes, Velna said quietly. They surprised the Draxian Empire 20 years ago. The Draxians were arrogant, Thorax replied. They attacked human colony worlds directly. They gave the humans time to prepare and respond. We are not making that mistake. This will be quick, surgical, and decisive. Zresh examined the hologram one more time. 47 ships against 12. Good odds. Better than good, Thorax said. Perfect. The gravitational anomaly hides us completely. The humans cannot detect us until we power up weapons. By then it will be too late. They will be surrounded and outgunned. I hope they fight, Zresh said. I hope they show the warrior spirit. It will make the victory more satisfying. They will fight, Thorax assured him. Humans always fight. But fighting without preparation, without intelligence, without position is just dying with extra steps. Velna gathered her data pads. I should return to my ship. We need to run final tests on the jamming arrays. Human communication technology is simple, but we must be thorough. After she left, Zresh turned to Thorax. You have done well, Admiral. This plan is flawless. The Concordate Council will reward you greatly when we succeed. When we succeed, Thorax repeated. Not if, when, because we have done everything right. The humans have done everything wrong. They are predictable. They are overconfident. They are blind. The two officers stood in silence for a moment, watching the hologram rotate. The ambush point glowed softly, waiting for the human fleet to arrive. 43 hours, Zresh said finally. Then we show the humans they are not as powerful as they think. Thorax deactivated the hologram. The war room fell into darkness except for the starlight coming through the viewports. 43 hours, he agreed. And then the human expansion ends. Over the next 30 hours, the Concordate fleet moved into final position. 47 ships of various sizes and capabilities, all hidden in the shadow of Gravity Well 7-4. Weapons were charged and ready. Crews stood at battle stations. Mines floated silently along the patrol route, waiting for the signal to activate. Admiral Thorax stood on the bridge of Dominion's edge, watching his tactical displays. Everything was perfect. Everything was ready. The trap was set. On another display, he could see the long-range sensors. The human fleet had entered the outer Kelthera system right on schedule. 12 ships in standard patrol formation. They were moving at cruising speed, following Route 7 exactly as predicted. 18 hours until they reached the kill zone, his tactical officer reported. Maintain radio silence, Thorax ordered. Minimal power output. I want us completely invisible until the moment we strike. Yes, Admiral. Thorax allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. 6 months of planning. 6 months of intelligence gathering and careful positioning. It was all coming together perfectly. The humans suspected nothing. They were flying directly into the trap, confident and unaware. In 18 hours, the Concordate would strike the first blow in a new era. The humans would learn they were not the dominant force they imagined themselves to be. Other young species would see what happened and think twice before expanding into Concordate space. Admiral Thorax smiled his predatory smile and settled in to wait. The perfect ambush was about to begin. The human fleet moved through space like a school of metal fish, 12 ships maintaining perfect formation as they crossed into the inner Kelthera system. On the bridge of the carrier UHSF Indomitable, Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her command chair, watching the main display with calm eyes. Status report, she said quietly. All ships reporting normal operations, Lieutenant Park replied from the communications station. Sensors show no unusual activity. The system appears clear, Admiral, Chen nodded slowly. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. The Indomitable was the newest carrier in the United Human Space Force, and its bridge reflected that. Clean lines, efficient design and technology that represented humanity's best efforts at space warfare. Navigation. Confirm our route, Chen ordered. Route 7. Admiral, the navigation officer confirmed. Passing through the asteroid belt now. Estimated arrival at waypoint Gamma in 6 hours. Maintain standard formation. Continue sensor sweeps. Yes, Admiral. Chen watched the tactical display. Her fleet was spread out in a defensive pattern, with the destroyers forming a protective screen around the carrier and cruisers. The support vessels stayed close to Indomitable, ready to provide supplies or repairs if needed. It was a standard patrol formation, one they had used dozens of times before. On another display, she could see the sensor readings from the fourth planet and its surrounding space. The gravitational anomaly showed up clearly, a swirling mess of distorted readings that made detailed scanning difficult, but that was normal. Gravity Well 74 had been there for millions of years. It was marked on every chart. "Admiral," said Commander Rodriguez, her executive officer, "the crew is asking about shore leave after this patrol. It's been 2 months since our last port call." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Tell them if this patrol goes smoothly, I'll authorize extended leave at Proxima Station. That'll make them happy, Admiral." The hours passed quietly. The fleet moved deeper into the system, following their established route. Sensor sweeps continued every 15 minutes, standard procedure for any patrol. The results were always the same: empty space, distant planets, the gravitational anomaly creating its usual interference. On the bridge of Dominion's edge, Admiral Thorax watched the human fleet approach. His tactical display showed their formation, their speed, their course. "Everything exactly as predicted? Distance to kill zone?" he asked. 2 hours, 17 minutes, his tactical officer replied. "Perfect. All ships maintain position. Weapons ready but not powered. I want 0 emissions until my command." Throughout the Concordat fleet, thousands of soldiers and crew members waited at their battle stations. Corthan warriors checked their weapons for the 100th time. Zeltari technicians monitored their jamming arrays. Phraxian gunners calibrated targeting computers. Everyone knew the plan. Everyone was ready. Commander Zeresh walked the corridors of his ship, the heavy cruiser Warrior's Fang. His 4 legs carried him past groups of soldiers, all preparing for battle. He stopped to speak with them, offering words of encouragement. "Today we teach the humans a lesson," he told one group. "Today we show them that the Concordat is not weak, that our territory is not theirs to take." The soldiers roared their approval, raising their weapons in salute. On the science vessel Luminous Thought, Velna made final adjustments to the jamming arrays. Her delicate fingers moved across control panels, checking power levels and frequency ranges. Human communication technology was not sophisticated, but she wanted to be certain. The jammers would need to work perfectly. "Test sequence complete," one of her assistants reported. "All systems at maximum efficiency." "Good," Velna said. "Begin power buildup in 90 minutes. I want full jamming capability ready the moment the Admiral gives the command." Back on Indomitable, Chen stood and walked to the forward viewport. Space stretched out before her, infinite and dark except for the distant stars. Somewhere out there, beyond her vision, the 4th planet waited, and beyond that the gravitational anomaly. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Rodriguez said, joining her. "Even after all these years, I never get tired of this view." "Neither do I," Chen agreed. "Remind me why we chose this life, Commander." Rodriguez laughed. "Because someone has to protect humanity's interests out here. Because we're good at it. Because the pay is terrible but the view is spectacular." Chen smiled. "All good reasons." Her personal communicator beeped softly. She checked it and saw a message from her chief engineer. Everything was running perfectly. Engines at optimal efficiency. All systems green. The Indomitable was ready for whatever came. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park called. "Receiving scheduled check-in from UHSF Command. They confirm our route and wish us smooth sailing." "Acknowledge and thank them," Chen replied. The human fleet continued forward. 1 hour from the kill zone, 30 minutes 15. On Dominion's edge, tension filled the air. Every screen showed the approaching human ships. They were so close now, so perfectly positioned. "All ships report ready," the tactical officer said, his voice tight with anticipation. Thorax leaned forward in his command chair. "Begin weapons power-up slowly. I want minimal energy signature until they're in optimal range." Throughout the Concordat fleet, weapon systems came online. Power flowed into energy cannons. Missile tubes loaded their deadly cargo. Point defense systems activated. The 47 ships were transforming from silent observers into weapons of war. "Human fleet entering kill zone," the tactical officer announced. "Steady," Thorax said. "Let them get deeper. I want them centered in the sphere before we strike." Chen stood at the forward viewport, Rodriguez beside her. The gravitational anomaly was visible now. A slight distortion in the star field ahead. The fleet would pass close to it, using the 4th planet's gravity to slingshot around and begin their return journey. "Standard procedure, Admiral," the sensor officer said. "I'm picking up some unusual readings near the anomaly." "What kind of readings?" Chen asked, not turning from the viewport. "It's hard to say. The interference makes it difficult to interpret." "Could be nothing." Could be debris from the asteroid belt caught in the gravity well. Keep monitoring it, Chen ordered. Let me know if it changes. Yes, Admiral. Rodriguez glanced at Chen, but the Admiral's face showed nothing. She continued staring out at the stars, her hands clasped behind her back. They're in position, Thorex's tactical officer said, excitement clear in his voice. Perfect targeting solution on all human vessels. Thorex stood, his scaled hand hovering over the activation control. This was the moment. 6 months of planning about to become reality. The humans were trapped, surrounded, and completely unaware. Activate mines, he commanded. All ships power up to full weapon status. Prepare to engage. Space erupted with activity. The mines that had been floating dormant along the patrol route suddenly came alive, their drives igniting as they accelerated toward human ships. 47 Concordate warships emerged from the gravitational anomalies, Shadow, their weapons charging, their targeting computers locking onto human vessels. Alarms screamed throughout the human fleet. Every sensor board lit up with warnings, proximity alerts, weapon locks, energy signatures. The space around them, empty seconds before, was suddenly filled with hostile ships and incoming weapons. Evasive action, commanders shouted on a dozen human ships. Battle stations, return fire. On Indomitable's bridge, controlled chaos replaced the calm of moments before. Officers shouted reports, displays flashed red. The tactical plot showed the nightmare scenario every fleet commander feared, surrounded and outnumbered. Count 47 hostile ships, the sensor officer yelled. Multiple weapon locks, mines incoming. Launch countermeasures, Rodriguez ordered. All ships, defensive formation Delta. Chen stood perfectly still at the viewport, watching the mines streak toward her ships. Behind her, the bridge crew fought to respond to the ambush, but she didn't move. She didn't shout orders. She just watched. The mines reached their targets. Explosions blossomed against shields and armor. The destroyer UHSF Valiant took 3, direct hits, and disappeared in a ball of fire and debris. Its destruction lasted only seconds. Valiant is gone, Park reported, his voice cracking. No survivors. Energy beams lanced through space, striking human cruisers and destroyers. The Concordate weapons were powerful, far more powerful than standard human armaments. Shields flickered and failed. Armor burned and melted. We're taking heavy damage, Rodriguez shouted. Admiral, we need to retreat. We can't fight this many ships. Still, Chen didn't respond. She watched the Concordate fleet spread out around them, forming the perfect killing sphere. 47 ships against 11 now, a slaughter in the making. Communication jamming detected, Park yelled. Can't reach UHSF command. We're cut off. The cruiser UHSF Defiant spun away from the formation, its engines damaged, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. A Concordat heavy cruiser closed in, weapons charging for the killing blow. Admiral! Rodriguez grabbed Chen's shoulder. We have to do something. Finally, Chen turned from the viewport. Her face was calm. Her eyes were clear. And on her lips was the smallest hint of a smile. Commander Rodriguez, she said in a voice loud enough for the entire bridge to hear. Execute Phase 1. Rodriguez stared at her for a moment, then understanding flooded his face. He rushed to his command station and entered a sequence of codes. Phase 1 executing, he confirmed. Chen walked to her command chair and sat down, her movements unhurried despite the chaos around her. She touched the communications panel. All ships, she said. Her voice transmitted on what should have been jammed frequencies. This is Chen. Phase 1 complete. They've committed. Activate countermeasures. On every human ship, officers entered activation codes. In the debris field where Valiant had died, something came alive. The scattered wreckage began to reassemble, holographic projectors working in perfect coordination. Within seconds, the destroyed ship reappeared, whole and undamaged, its weapons charging. Throughout the Concordate fleet, confusion replaced confidence. Tactical officers stared at their displays in shock. The destroyed human ship was intact. Impossible. They had seen it explode. What is this? Thorex demanded. How is that ship still there? I don't know, Admiral, his tactical officer replied. Sensors show it's not a ship. It's a hologram. It was never destroyed. Chen's voice came over open channels, cutting through the concordate jamming like it wasn't even there. Every ship in the system, human and concordate alike, heard her words clearly. Coalition forces, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Human Space Force. Thank you for revealing your positions. Your ambush has failed. I strongly suggest you stand down and prepare to surrender. Thorax felt something cold grip his stomach. The human admiral's voice was calm, almost amused. Not the voice of someone trapped and desperate, the voice of someone in control. How is she broadcasting? Zaresh's voice came over the command channel. Our jamming should prevent all human communications. I don't know, Thorax replied. Weapons free, all ships engage, destroy them. But even as he gave the order, doubt crept into his mind. The destroyed ship that wasn't destroyed. The communications that couldn't be jammed. The admiral, who sounded like she had been expecting this. On Indomitable's bridge, Chen smiled. Not a small smile anymore, but a full expression of satisfaction. Now, Commander Rodriguez, she said quietly. Now we show them what happens when they plan an ambush against humanity. With pleasure, Admiral, Rodriguez replied. His fingers danced across his controls. Activating all systems, sending the signal. Throughout the Kelthera system, thousands of small objects that had been silent and invisible suddenly activated. Micro-sensor drones planted weeks ago, each one no bigger than a human fist. They had been watching the Concordate fleet for days, mapping every ship, recording every movement, sending their data through communication channels the Coalition didn't even know existed, and in the gravitational anomaly itself something massive powered up. Something that had been waiting hidden where the Concordate ships should have been hiding. Chen leaned back in her command chair and steepled her fingers. The perfect ambush, she said softly. They thought they had planned the perfect ambush. They were wrong. On Dominion's edge, alarms began to scream. Admiral Thorax stared at his tactical display, trying to understand what was happening. The human fleet, which should have been panicking and dying, was instead reorganizing with precision. The destroyed ship was active and targeting his vessels, and most impossibly, the human admiral was broadcasting on frequencies that his jammers should have completely blocked. Status of jamming arrays, he barked. Operating at full capacity, Admiral, his communications officer replied, confusion thick in his voice. But the humans are communicating anyway. It's like our jammers don't exist. On her bridge, Chen touched another control. Lieutenant Park, open a channel to all Concordate ships. Let's help them understand their situation. Channel open, Admiral. Chen's voice filled the Kelthera system again, reaching every ship on both sides. Concordate forces, I want to be clear about something. Your ambush was very well planned. The gravitational anomaly was an excellent hiding place. Your mine placement was textbook perfect. Your intelligence operation was thorough. You did everything right according to standard military doctrine. She paused, letting her words sink in. Throughout the Concordate fleet, thousands of soldiers listened, uncertain and confused. There's just one problem, Chen continued. You planned your ambush based on what you thought you knew about humanity. You thought we were predictable. You thought our sensors were primitive. You thought we wouldn't see you coming. All of those assumptions were wrong. Thorax slammed his fist on his command console. She's bluffing. She has to be. Attack pattern Delta. Concentrate fire on their carrier. 20 Concordate ships adjusted their targeting, focusing their weapons on Indomitable. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human carrier. Chen watched them come, her expression never changing. Countermeasures, she said simply. The space around Indomitable suddenly filled with interference. Every missile lost its lock, spinning away harmlessly. Energy beams scattered off defensive fields that shouldn't have existed. Not shields which the Concordate could detect, but something else. Something new. What just happened? Zresh demanded over the command channel. Our weapons had targeting locks. Adaptive countermeasures, Commander. Chen's voice answered him directly. You're not the only ones who can listen to communications. We've been monitoring your tactical channels since this started. Every weapon lock, every firing solution, we see it the moment you do, and we counter it. On luminous thought, Velna frantically worked at her controls, trying to break through the human communications. This is impossible, she muttered. We're using electromagnetic jamming across every frequency humans have ever used. They shouldn't be able to transmit anything. Her assistant leaned over, Scientist Velna, what if they're not using electromagnetic communication? Velna froze. What else would they use? I don't know. But if we can't jam it, then it must be something we haven't encountered before. 3 months earlier, Earth, Geneva Military Research Center. Dr. Sarah Kimura stood before a panel of military officials, a small device sitting on the table in front of her. Gentlemen, ladies, what you're looking at is the future of military communication. We call it the QEC, or Quantum Entanglement Communicator. An admiral leaned forward. Doctor, we've heard quantum entanglement theories for decades. Everyone says it's impossible to use for faster-than-light communication. That was true, Kimura agreed, until 6 months ago. We finally cracked the stability problem. This device can communicate instantly with its paired unit, regardless of distance, using quantum entanglement. No electromagnetic signals, no light speed delay, and most importantly, no way for conventional jammers to block it. Another officer spoke up. What's the range? Theoretically unlimited. We've tested it across the solar system with perfect reliability. The signal doesn't travel through space in any conventional sense, so there's nothing to intercept or jam. How many can we produce? We have enough for the entire home fleet. Every ship can be equipped within 2 months. The admiral who had spoken first smiled. Do it, and let's keep this very, very quiet. Back in the Kelthera system, Chen continued her explanation. Your intelligence operation was impressive, Admiral Thorax. You found our communication channels. You broke our encryption. You listened to our fleet coordination for months. What you didn't know was that we found your monitoring stations 3 weeks after you placed them. Thorax felt ice form in his chest. That's impossible. Our stations were perfectly hidden. Hidden from standard sensors, yes, Chen agreed. But we weren't using standard sensors. You see, Admiral, while you were studying us, we were studying you. And we learned something interesting. The Concordat relies very heavily on assumptions. You assumed we would use the same technology you're familiar with. You assumed we hadn't developed anything new. You never considered that we might be better at this than you thought. She touched another control. Let me show you something. Commander Rodriguez, activate the tactical overlay. On every ship's display, human and Concordat alike, a new image appeared. It showed the Kelthera system in perfect detail, with every ship marked. But there were thousands of other markers, small red dots scattered throughout the system. What you're seeing, Chen explained, are our sensor drones. We call them micro-sentinels. Each one is about the size of your fist. They're made of composite materials that absorb radar instead of reflecting it. They generate almost no heat signature, and they've been here for 3 weeks watching everything you do. Velna pulled up the image on her own screens, her large eyes widening in shock. The red dots were everywhere, hundreds clustered around the gravitational anomaly, dozens near each Concordat ship, thousands forming a net throughout the system. We watched you move into position, Chen continued. We watched you place your mines. We mapped every ship in your fleet, identified their capabilities, and tracked their power signatures. We know which of your vessels has the most powerful weapons. We know which ones have damaged engines. We even know which ships have full crews and which ones are operating understaffed. On Warrior's Fang, Zresh felt something he hadn't experienced in many years. Doubt. She's lying. This is psychological warfare, is it? Chen asked, and Zresh realized she was responding to his private comment. Commander Zresh, your ship, the Warrior's Fang, is currently operating with a crew of 843. Your full complement is 1,000. Your portside engine has a minor plasma leak that reduces your maximum speed by 7%. Your second weapons officer is new, transferred in just 2 weeks ago. Shall I continue? Silence filled the command channel. Then Zresh spoke, his voice quiet. How do you know this? Because we've been listening. Because we've been watching. Because while you were planning your perfect ambush, we were planning ours. 2 months earlier, Proxima Station, Human Naval Intelligence. Admiral Chen sat in a secure briefing room with Commander Sandra Wolf, head of Naval Intelligence. Tell me about the Concordat buildup, Chen said. Wolf pulled up holographic displays. They've been moving ships toward our borders for 4 months. Slowly, carefully, trying not to attract attention. We estimate 40 to 50 vessels, mostly concentrated near the Kelthera system. Why Kelthera? It's on our patrol route, specifically Route 7. Our ships pass through there every 18 days, regular as clockwork. Intelligence believes they're planning an ambush. Chen studied the display. What makes them think they can succeed? They've been monitoring our patrols. They found our communication channels and broke our encryption. They think they know everything about us. Wolf smiled slightly. They don't know about the QEC. They don't know about the micro-sentinels. They don't know we've been feeding their spies false information for 2 months. What kind of false information? Everything that makes an ambush look attractive. Confirmation that our patrol routes are unchangeable. Data suggesting our sensors are less capable than they really are. Reports that our nearest backup forces are days away. Wolf's smile widened. We've even made sure their spies report back that we have no idea they're watching us. Chen leaned back, thinking. So they believe they have the perfect ambush. They do. Or they think they do. What they don't realize is that we've known about their plan almost from the beginning. We've had time to prepare. Time to position our own assets. Time to turn their ambush into ours. What do you need from me? Take your fleet on the scheduled patrol. Follow Route 7 exactly as planned. Act completely normal. Let them spring their trap. Then we spring ours. Chen had smiled then. I think I can manage that. In the Kelthera system, the reality of the situation was becoming clear to the concordant forces. Thorax stared at his displays, seeing the thousands of sensor drones that had been watching them, seeing the tactical data that humans shouldn't have, seeing his perfect ambush falling apart. Your minds were well placed, Chen said conversationally. We found them all, of course. The micro-sentinels detected them days ago. We could have disarmed them or destroyed them. Instead, we did something more interesting. We reprogrammed them. Reprogrammed? Thorax repeated, dread filling his voice. About 60% of your minds now answer to us, not you. The other 40% we've mapped down to the centimeter. We can avoid them or destroy them at will, but the reprogrammed ones, those are special. Would you like to see? Thorax didn't answer. Chen took that as a yes. Tactical, demonstrate mind control. On Indomitable, Rodriguez entered commands. Throughout the minefield, dozens of mines began moving. They detached from their positions and accelerated, not toward human ships but toward concordant vessels. Panic erupted on the concordant command channels. Mines inbound. Point defense, engage. The concordant ships opened fire on their own mines, destroying them before they could close. But the message was clear. The weapons they had placed to trap humans were now controlled by humans. You're probably wondering how we reprogrammed your minds, Chen said. The answer is actually simple. Your technology isn't as secure as you think. Once we had access to a few of your systems through the micro-sentinels, we discovered that concordant security protocols have a weakness. You use centralized command codes. Break one code and you can access every similar system. It took our AI about 3 hours to crack it. Velna felt sick. Security protocols were her specialty. The idea that humans had broken them so easily was humiliating. Now let's talk about your jamming, Chen continued. Scientist Velna, I know you're listening. Your jamming arrays are very powerful. They cover every electromagnetic frequency humans have ever used for communication. They should work perfectly. The problem is we're not using electromagnetic communication. We're using quantum entanglement. Your jammers can't block what they can't detect. Velna slumped in her chair. All her careful work, all her preparations, rendered useless by technology she hadn't known existed. Admiral Thorax, Chen said, her voice growing harder. You planned this ambush based on intelligence that we fed you. You positioned your fleet exactly where we wanted you. You attacked exactly when we expected. Everything you did, we predicted. Everything you know about us, we allowed you to know. You didn't plan the perfect ambush. You walked into one. Thorax's hands shook on his command console. You're bluffing. You couldn't have known all this. You couldn't have prepared so perfectly. Couldn't I? Let me prove it. Your flagship Dominion's Edge has 47 primary weapon systems. Your shield generators are operating at 94% capacity. You have 812 crew members aboard. Your fusion reactors are running hot because you pushed them to full power too quickly. Your escape pods are ready to launch, which suggests you're considering retreat. Am I wrong about any of that? Thorax said nothing. Every detail was correct. Impossible, but correct. You see, Admiral, humanity learned something important in our history. We learned it through centuries of warfare among ourselves. We learned that the best way to win a battle is to make your enemy think they're winning right up until the moment they lose. You thought you had the perfect ambush. You were wrong. We did. Rodriguez called out, Admiral, all human ships reporting ready for Phase 2. Chen nodded. Good. Execute. Throughout the human fleet, ships that had appeared damaged began showing their true condition. The extensive damage was superficial, cosmetic even, designed to look catastrophic on concordate sensors while protecting the vital systems beneath. What looked like venting atmosphere was actually carefully released gas. What looked like failing shields was actually adaptive protection, designed to let some damage through while stopping the rest. The human ships weren't crippled. They were fully operational, and now they were done pretending otherwise. All ships, Chen commanded. Battle Formation Omega, show them what they're really facing. The human fleet shifted, and for the first time the concordate forces saw what they were truly up against. Not 12 ships, but 12 command vessels. And around each one, smaller craft were powering up, emerging from stealth that had kept them invisible until now. Dozens of frigates and corvettes appeared on concordate sensors, each one bristling with weapons. They had been there all along, running silent, waiting for this moment. Final count, Rodriguez reported. 12 capital ships, 38 frigates, 72 corvettes, 122 combat vessels total. Thorax stared at the numbers. 122 against his 47. The tables had completely turned. How? He whispered. Chen heard him somehow. How? Because we learned from our history, Admiral. We learned to prepare. We learned to deceive. We learned that the prey should sometimes pretend to be prey until the hunter gets close. Then the prey shows its teeth. She stood up from her command chair. You have one chance, Admiral Thorax. Surrender now. Power down your weapons. Prepare to be boarded, or continue fighting and be destroyed. Choose. In the command channel, concordate officers argued. Zresh wanted to fight. Velna urged surrender. Others debated frantically. Thorax looked at his displays. At the human fleet now revealed in its full strength. At the minds that answered to human commands. At the thousands of sensor drones watching every move. At the tactical disadvantage that had replaced his overwhelming advantage. The perfect ambush had become the perfect trap. And humanity had been the one holding the trap all along. The silence on the concordate command channel stretched for 10 seconds. 20. 30. Admiral Chen waited patiently, watching her tactical display as the concordate fleet remained frozen in indecision. Then Admiral Thorax spoke. No, we are the concordate. We do not surrender to humans. All ships attack Formation Sigma. Concentrate all fire on the human carrier. If we destroy their command ship, the rest will fall. Chen had expected this. Predictable to the end. She touched her controls. Commander Rodriguez, execute Phase 3. All ships, weapons free. Target engines and weapon systems only. I want prisoners, not corpses. The human fleet erupted into coordinated action. 122 ships moving with precision that spoke of extensive training and perfect communication. The concordate forces saw human frigates diving in from unexpected angles, corvettes swarming like angry insects, and the capital ships, including the carrier they thought was vulnerable, revealing weapon systems that hadn't appeared on any intelligence report. Indomitable's main railguns fired, not energy weapons that the concordate expected, but solid projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed. 2 tungsten rounds, each weighing 2 tons, crossed the distance to the concordate heavy cruiser Shadow of Dominance in less than a second. They punched through the cruiser's shields like they weren't there and smashed into the engine section. The cruiser's main drives exploded. The ship went dark, tumbling in space, its power systems destroyed. The crew was alive, but the ship was dead. Shadow of Dominance is disabled, Rodriguez reported. No casualties detected. Good. Next target. On Warrior's Fang, Commander Zresh watched the human attack with growing horror. The frigates were everywhere, moving faster than should be possible, their weapons firing with impossible accuracy. 3 concordate destroyers were already disabled, their engines destroyed, their weapon systems offline. Return fire, Zresh roared. All weapons, continuous barrage. His ship's main batteries opened up, sending streams of energy toward the nearest human frigate. The human ship twisted in space, evading with movements that seemed to defy physics, acceleration that should have turned the crew to paste. Turns that should have torn the ship apart, but it kept moving, kept dodging until it was behind Warrior's Fang and firing at the engine section. Zresh felt his ship shudder. Alarms screamed. Status. Port engine offline. Starboard engine losing power. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Seal the breaches. Reroute power. Keep us in the fight. But even as he gave the orders, Zresh knew the truth. The human ships were better than intelligence had suggested. Faster, more maneuverable, with weapons that hit harder than they should, and there were so many of them. On luminous thought, Velna watched the battle unfold with scientific detachment, even as fear clawed at her. The human tactics were fascinating. They weren't trying to destroy the Concordat fleet. They were surgically disabling it. Engine strikes, weapon system targeting, communication array destruction. Every attack designed to cripple without killing. "Why aren't they destroying us?" her assistant asked. "Because they don't need to," Velna replied softly. "They've already won. Now they're just proving it." A human corvette flashed past luminous thought, close enough that Velna could see the markings on its hull, UHSF Mongoose, and beneath that, a painted image of an animal with sharp teeth. The corvette didn't fire. It didn't need to. Luminous thought was a science vessel, lightly armed, no threat. The corvette was sending a message. "We see you. We could destroy you. We're choosing not to." Throughout the Kelthera system, the battle continued. But it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a demonstration. The Concordat ships fought with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. Human ships were everywhere, coordinating with impossible precision, attacking from angles the Concordat couldn't defend, using weapons the Concordat hadn't known existed. A Vraxian destroyer fired a spread of missiles at the human cruiser UHSF Defiant. The missiles were top-of-the-line Concordat weapons, each one capable of destroying a frigate. Defiant's point defense systems activated, and the space between the ships filled with small projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Every missile was destroyed before it got within a kilometer of the cruiser. "How are they doing that?" a Vraxian officer screamed. "Those missiles have evasion systems. They're tracking the missiles with multiple sensors," another officer replied, studying the data. "They know where each missile is going before it gets there. They're not reacting to the missiles. They're predicting them." On Dominion's edge, Admiral Thorax watched his fleet being systematically dismantled. 12 ships disabled. 15, 20. His forces were spread across the system, unable to coordinate, unable to form effective defensive positions. The human fleet moved through them like sharks through a school of fish. "Get me Commander Zresh," he ordered. "Communication systems are damaged, Admiral." "I'm trying to—" "Then try harder." But Thorax knew it was futile. The human attack had targeted communication arrays early. His fleet was blind and deaf, each ship fighting alone while the humans coordinated perfectly. It was a nightmare scenario. Everything that could go wrong had gone wrong. No, everything that humans had planned to go wrong was going wrong. That was different. And somehow worse. A new alarm sounded on Dominion's edge. "Admiral, multiple human ships closing on our position." Thorax looked at his tactical display. 5 human frigates were approaching from different vectors. Behind them, a cruiser. They were coming for his flagship. Coming to cut the head off the Concordat fleet. Evasive maneuvers. "All weapons, prepare to fire!" But Dominion's edge was a big ship. Powerful, yes, but not agile. The human frigates danced around it, their weapons firing precisely. The first shots took out Thorax's long-range sensors. The next hit his main communications array. Then his shield generators one by one, shields at 40%, 30%, 20%. Thorax braced for the killing blow, for the railgun round or missile that would smash through his weakened shields and destroy his ship. He waited for death. It didn't come. Instead, the human cruiser moved into position, close enough that Thorax could see every detail of its hull. Close enough that its weapons could tear Dominion's edge apart. But it didn't fire. It just sat there, weapons locked on target, waiting. Admiral Chen's voice came over the speakers. "Admiral Thorax, your shields are down. Your weapons are disabled. Your fleet is scattered and broken. Your ambush has failed. I'm offering you one more chance to surrender. Take it, please. I don't want to kill you or your crew." Thorax stared at the human cruiser, at the weapons pointed at his ship, at the inevitable end if he continued fighting. Around him, his bridge crew looked to him for orders. Young officers, experienced veterans, all depending on his decision. Pride warred with survival. The warrior part of him wanted to fight to the end, to go down in battle rather than surrender to the young upstart species. But the commander part of him, the part responsible for thousands of lives, knew the truth. The battle was over. It had been over from the moment it began. The humans had outplayed them completely. "All Concordat vessels," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Stand down. Power down all weapons. Prepare to surrender." On Warrior's fangs, Resh heard the order and roared in fury. No, we are Korthan. We do not surrender. His tactical officer stepped forward, all four legs planted firmly. Commander, we have lost. The Admiral is right. If we continue, we die for nothing. That is not honor. That is stupidity. Suresh looked around his damaged bridge, at the young warriors who had followed him into battle, at the flashing red indicators showing critical systems offline, at the human ships surrounding them, weapons ready but not firing. He made a sound like grinding boulders, the Korthan expression of deep frustration. Then he powered down his weapons. Stand down, he ordered. But this is not over. We will remember this. We will learn from this. And one day, we will have our revenge. Chen heard his words transmitted over the open channel. She smiled slightly. Commander Zeresh, if you want revenge, you're welcome to try. But I suggest you think very carefully about whether you want to face humanity again. We don't like repeating lessons. Across the Kelthera system, concordate ships powered down, some reluctantly, some quickly, some with relief. Within minutes, the battle that should have destroyed the human fleet had instead ended with the complete surrender of the concordate forces. All hostile vessels have ceased fire, Rodriguez reported. We're reading 0 active weapons across the concordate fleet. Casualties? Chen asked. On our side, minimal. 3 wounded, non-critical. The concordate suffered approximately 400 casualties, mostly from decompression and collision injuries when ships were damaged. No confirmed deaths on either side. Chen nodded with satisfaction. Good, begin rescue operations. Get medical teams to any concordate ships with wounded, and send boarding parties to secure their vessels. By the book, Commander. Treat their wounded as we would treat our own. Yes, Admiral. Chen stood and walked to the forward viewport again. The battlefield was spread before her. Concordate ships dead in space, some venting atmosphere, others tumbling slowly. Her own fleet moving among them, already beginning rescue operations. It was over. But before she could begin the long process of securing prisoners and damaged ships, there was one more thing to do. She touched her communications panel. This is Admiral Chen to all ships, human and concordate. The battle is over. The concordate forces have surrendered. I want to make something very clear to everyone listening. What happened here today was not about hatred. It was not about conquest. It was about survival and deterrence. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The concordate planned to ambush us because they saw humanity as weak, as predictable, as easy prey. They were wrong, but I don't want them or anyone else to think humanity is looking for war. We're not. We've had enough war in our own history. We know what it costs. On Dominion's edge, Thorax listened, his scaled hands gripping the arms of his command chair. What we want, Chen continued, is peace. But we will defend ourselves. We will protect our territory, and we will not allow anyone to attack us without consequence. The concordate learned this today. Let it be a lesson to all species in this region of space. Humanity is not weak. We are not blind. We are not easy prey. Attack us at your own risk. She changed frequencies, addressing only the concordate forces. Admiral Thorax, you and your people will be treated with respect. Your wounded will receive medical care. Your ships will be secured but not destroyed. In a few days after we've had time to discuss terms, you'll be allowed to return to concordate space, but you'll return with a message for your leaders. Tell them what happened here. Tell them humanity defeated you without firing a shot in anger. Tell them we could have destroyed you but chose mercy instead. Thorax felt something twist in his chest. Shame, humiliation, but also something else. Respect. The human admiral had won completely, and now she was offering mercy. It was more than he would have offered in her position. I understand, Admiral Chen, he replied quietly. Good. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a fleet to reorganize and prisoners to process. Chen out. The channel closed. Chen sat back in her command chair and allowed herself a moment of exhaustion. Rodriguez approached, a data pad in hand. Preliminary reports, Admiral. 47 concordate vessels secured. Approximately 23,000 prisoners. 17 concordate ships suffered major damage. 8 are total losses, but all crew were evacuated. On our side, minor damage to 3 frigates and 1 destroyer. All fully repairable. No ships lost. No personnel killed. Chen took the data pad and scanned it. Not bad for our first major engagement with a peer military force. Not bad? Rodriguez laughed. Admiral, this was perfect. We defeated them completely. We captured their entire fleet. And we did it with essentially 0 casualties on either side. This is going into the history books. Maybe, Chen allowed. But history will also record that we had every advantage. We knew they were coming. We prepared for months. We turned their ambush into ours. It wasn't a fair fight. War isn't supposed to be fair, Admiral. No, but victory is supposed to mean something. Commander, make sure all Concordat wounded get priority treatment. I want their medical staff working alongside ours. I want them to see that we keep our word. That when we offer mercy, we mean it. Understood, Admiral. Chen looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, other species were watching. The Concordat would return home with news of their defeat. Other powers would hear about it. Some would be frightened. Some would be angry. Some would respect humanity more. Some would plot revenge. But they would all know one thing. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not blind. And humanity was very, very dangerous when provoked. The perfect ambush had taught the Concordat that lesson. Chen just hoped they learned it well enough that she never had to teach it again. Commander Rodriguez, she said quietly. Send a message to UHSF Command. Tell them the patrol encountered hostile forces and the situation is now under control. Request instructions for prisoner processing and damaged ship recovery. Yes, Admiral. And the press? This is going to be big news. Chen smiled. Let Command handle the press. I'm just a fleet admiral doing her job. Speaking of which, how long until we can resume our patrol route? Rodriguez blinked. Admiral, we just fought a major battle. We have thousands of prisoners. Surely the patrol can wait. The patrol will continue, Commander. We'll leave a small force to secure the prisoners and wait for reinforcements. But the rest of the fleet will resume Route 7 on schedule. I want everyone to know that the Concordat ambush didn't even slow us down. Rodriguez grinned. Now that's sending a message. Exactly. Now get me a damage control report. I want to know when we can get underway. As Rodriguez moved off to handle the orders, Chen sat alone in her command chair, watching the aftermath of the battle. The perfect ambush that the Concordat had planned for months. The counter-ambush that humanity had prepared in response. The complete and total victory that came from patience, intelligence, and proper preparation. They had thought humanity was blind. They had learned otherwise. And now everyone in this region of space would know the truth. Humanity saw everything. Humanity prepared for everything, and humanity did not lose. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Thorax sat in a conference room aboard the Indomitable. It was a strange feeling, being a prisoner on a human ship. The room was comfortable, almost pleasant. Soft lighting, clean surfaces, temperature controlled to accommodate his biology. The humans had even provided water and food suitable for Vraxian consumption. It was not what he had expected from captivity. The door opened and Admiral Chen entered, followed by Commander Rodriguez and 2 guards. The guards remained by the door, weapons holstered. A sign of respect or perhaps a demonstration of confidence. Chen sat across from Thorax, her expression calm and professional. Admiral, she said simply. Admiral, Thorax replied. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Chen folded her hands on the table. I thought we should talk. Commander to commander. Not for any official record, just to understand each other. Thorax studied her face. Human faces were strange to him. Flat and soft compared to Vraxian features, but he could read the intelligence in her eyes. The determination. What do you want to understand? I want to know why. Why plan this ambush? Why risk war with humanity? The Concordat has plenty of territory. We've never threatened your borders. So why? Thorax considered his answer. There was no point in lying now. Fear, he said finally. Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries, and you've already claimed dozens of systems. You expand faster than any species we've encountered. You adapt quickly. You develop new technology at a pace that frightens older civilizations. We looked at humanity and saw a threat. Not now, perhaps, but in 50 years, 100 years. We decided it was better to deal with that threat before you became too powerful. Chen nodded slowly. So this was a preemptive strike. Not a strike, a lesson. We plan to defeat your patrol fleet, demonstrate our superiority, and force humanity to negotiate from a position of weakness. We would have established boundaries, limited your expansion, kept you contained. That was remarkably arrogant of you. Thorax's scales rippled, the Vraxian equivalent of a bitter smile. Yes, we were arrogant. We assumed, because we were older, We were wiser. Because we had more experience in space, we were better warriors. We assumed you were children playing at war. We were wrong. You were, Chen agreed. But I understand why you made that assumption. From your perspective, it probably made sense. You looked at our technology and compared it to yours. You found us wanting. What you didn't account for was human history. What do you mean? Chen leaned back in her chair. Admiral, your species has been traveling space for 3,000 years. In that time, have the Vraxians ever fought a major war among themselves? Thorax considered. Not since we unified. Perhaps 5,000 years ago. Since then, we've had conflicts with other species, but rarely war. We prefer diplomacy. The Korthan, they fight sometimes among clan lines, but not total war. Not for thousands of years. The Zelthari? They're scientists. They've never been warlike, Chen nodded. That's what I thought. You see, Admiral, humanity is different. We've been in space for 200 years, but we've been waging war for 10,000 years. We've fought each other over land, resources, religion, ideology, and things so petty we're ashamed to admit them now. We've developed weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. We've studied military strategy for centuries. We've written thousands of books about war. We've made it an art form and a science. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. We've had 2 global wars that killed millions. We've had countless smaller wars. We've fought in jungles, deserts, mountains, oceans, and cities. We've learned tactics and counter-tactics, deception and counterintelligence, ambush and counter-ambush. When you planned your attack, you were using military doctrine developed by species that fight wars once every few centuries. We were using doctrine developed by a species that has never stopped fighting. Thorax felt a chill despite the comfortable temperature. You're saying humanity is better at war because you've practiced more. I'm saying we're better at war because we've had to be. Our own survival has depended on it. We've learned lessons written in blood. We've made mistakes and paid for them with millions of lives. We've been deceived and betrayed so many times that we assume everyone is trying to deceive us. It's made us paranoid, suspicious, and very, very good at seeing through traps. She turned back to face him. When your intelligence operations started monitoring our patrol routes, we noticed within weeks. We noticed because we're always looking for people watching us. It's a habit born from centuries of experience. When you placed your monitoring stations, we found them because we assumed they were there. When you recruited spies, we knew because we've dealt with spies for generations. Everything you did, we've seen before. Everything you tried, we've countered before. So you knew about the ambush from the beginning? Almost. We knew something was happening within a month. We confirmed it was an ambush within 2 months. After that, we had 4 months to prepare. To position assets. To develop counter-strategies. To turn your ambush into our ambush. Thorax slumped in his chair. We never had a chance. No, Chen said gently. You didn't. Not because you're bad at military operations. Your plan was actually quite good. But you were fighting a war you didn't understand against an enemy who understands war better than anything else. It's not your fault. It's just the reality of our respective histories. What happens now? Thorax asked. Chen sat back down. Now we negotiate. Your people will want you back. They'll want their ships back. They'll want to avoid further conflict. So will we. We don't actually want to fight the Concordat. We want to expand into unclaimed space, yes, but we're not interested in conquest. There's enough room in the galaxy for all of us. The Concordat Council will be humiliated. They'll demand revenge. Perhaps. Or perhaps they'll be smart enough to recognize that revenge would be expensive. Admiral, we captured 47 of your ships. We took 23,000 prisoners. We did it with 0 fatalities on either side and minimal casualties. We demonstrated overwhelming tactical superiority. Now your people can either learn from this and seek peaceful relations, or they can escalate and find out just how much worse it can get. I'm hoping they'll be smart. Thorax met her eyes. What would you do? If you were advising the council? Chen smiled slightly. I'd tell them to negotiate. Establish clear boundaries that both sides respect. Set up communication channels for preventing future misunderstandings. Maybe even explore trade possibilities. The galaxy is dangerous enough without making enemies of capable neighbors. Better to have humanity as a neutral party or even an ally than as an enemy. You would agree to that? To boundaries on your expansion. If they're reasonable boundaries, yes. We don't need to claim every system. We just need room to grow. If the Concordat is willing to respect that, we can respect your territory in turn. But she held up a hand. Those boundaries have to work both ways. You don't get to keep expanding while telling us to stop. Fair is fair. Thorax thought about this. It was more generous than he had expected. More reasonable than the Concordat would have offered if their positions were reversed. I will convey that to the council. But I cannot promise they will accept, I understand. But Thorax, I need you to convey something else too. Something important. Can you do that? What? Chen's expression became serious. Tell them what happened here. Tell them exactly how thoroughly we defeated you. Tell them about the technology they didn't know we had. The sensors, the communications, the weapons. Tell them that everything they saw was just what we were willing to show them. Tell them that humanity has more secrets, more capabilities, more tricks that we didn't need to use because this victory was already complete. You're trying to frighten them. I'm trying to prevent another conflict. If the Concordat knows how dangerous humanity can be, maybe they'll choose peace. Fear isn't pretty, but it's better than war. Thorax considered this. You're assuming we'll be frightened. What if we're angry instead? What if this defeat makes us want to destroy you even more? Then you'll try, Chen said calmly. And you'll fail. And next time we won't be as merciful. Admiral, I've studied your species. I've studied your culture. The Vraxians are not stupid. You're calculating. Logical. You make decisions based on costs and benefits. Right now, you know the cost of fighting humanity is high. Very high. And the benefit is questionable. That's the message I want you to take home. The conference lasted another hour. They discussed logistics for the prisoner exchange. Terms for returning the captured ships. Proposals for future negotiations between humanity and the Concordat. By the end, a tentative understanding had been reached. As Thorax prepared to leave, he paused at the door. Admiral Chen, may I ask you something personal? Go ahead, were you afraid? When you flew into our ambush, knowing what was waiting, were you afraid? Chen considered the question. Terrified, she said honestly. Military intelligence is good, but it's not perfect. There was always a chance we'd missed something. A chance your ships were more capable than we thought. A chance the ambush would work despite our preparations. Yes, I was afraid. But I was also confident. We had done everything possible to prepare. We had planned for every contingency, and I trusted my crew to execute perfectly. Fear is just an emotion. It doesn't have to control your actions. Thorax nodded slowly. That is wisdom. Thank you for sharing it. After he left, Rodriguez joined Chen at the window. Think he'll convince the council to negotiate? I hope so. The alternative is more violence, and I'm tired of violence. You hit it well during the battle. You seemed completely calm, Chen smiled. That's command presence, Rodriguez. The crew needs to see confidence. But inside, I was running through worst-case scenarios the entire time. What if the ambush had more ships than intelligence reported? What if they had weapons we didn't expect? What if something went wrong? But nothing did go wrong. This time, next time might be different. That's why we can never get overconfident. The moment we think we're invincible is the moment we lose. Rodriguez checked his data pad. The last of the prisoners are being transferred to the transport ships. We'll be ready to resume our patrol route in 6 hours. Good. Let's make sure everything goes smoothly. I want the Concordat to see that we keep our word. That when we promise safe passage for prisoners, we deliver. 6 hours later, the human fleet resumed its patrol of Route 7, right on schedule, as if nothing had happened. As if the greatest military victory in recent human history was just another routine day. Aboard the transport ships, Concordat prisoners watched the human fleet depart. Some were angry. Some were confused. All were thoughtful. They had expected to ambush weak prey and instead found apex predators. It was a lesson that would not be forgotten. 2 weeks later, Concordat space. The council chamber was silent as Admiral Thorax finished his report. 50 council members from 3 species listened to the story of the ambush that failed, the defeat that should have been impossible. The complete reversal of expectations, let me be clear, Thorax said, his voice steady despite his shame. We were outplayed at every level. Our intelligence was compromised. Our technology was inadequate. Our tactics were predicted. We walked into a trap thinking we were setting one. The humans defeated us without even trying hard. Everything Admiral Chen showed us was a small sample of their capabilities. She made that very clear. This is unacceptable, one of the Corthan Council members growled. We must strike back. We must show humanity they cannot humiliate the Concordat. With what? Velna asked quietly. She sat in the science advisor's chair, her large eyes sad. We sent 47 ships. All captured. We sent our best intelligence officers. All compromised. We used our best technology. All countered. What exactly would you strike back with? We have more ships, more warriors, more resources. And humans have more tricks, Thorax said. Council members, I have fought many battles. I have studied military strategy for decades. I am telling you as clearly as I can that humanity is better at warfare than we are, not because they're stronger, not because they have more ships, but because they understand war in a way we do not. They've been practicing it for thousands of years. We are amateurs compared to them, so we should just surrender, a Vraxian council member asked. Accept defeat and beg for peace? We should negotiate from a position of wisdom, another council member said. This was Elder Soven, one of the oldest and most respected members of the council. We made assumptions about humanity. Those assumptions were wrong. Now we have a choice. We can admit our error and seek peaceful relations, or we can escalate and face even worse defeat. I suggest we choose wisely. The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted revenge. Others wanted peace. Still others wanted to wait and gather more information before deciding. But slowly a consensus emerged. The Concordat would negotiate. They would establish clear boundaries with humanity. They would seek peaceful coexistence. Not because they liked it, not because they weren't still afraid of human expansion, but because the alternative was worse. 3 months after the battle, the Kelthera Accords were signed. Humanity and the Concordat agreed to respect each other's territories, to establish trade relations, to share information on pirate activities and common threats, to maintain open communication channels to prevent future misunderstandings. It wasn't a perfect peace. There was still distrust on both sides, still fear, still the memory of the ambush that failed, but it was a beginning. Admiral Chen attended the signing ceremony, representing the United Human Space Force. She shook hands with Admiral Thorax, with Commander Zresh, with Scientist Velna. Cameras captured the moment for posterity. Diplomats made speeches about cooperation and mutual respect. Later, in a private moment, Thorax approached Chen one last time. Admiral, I wanted to thank you. For what? For mercy. You could have destroyed my fleet, killed my crews, made an example of us. Instead, you treated us with respect. You cared for our wounded. You returned our people. That mercy made this peace possible. Chen nodded. In war, victory matters. But how you win matters too. If we'd destroyed your fleet, the Concordat would have had no choice but to seek revenge. Your people would have demanded it. By showing mercy, we gave you a choice. Peace or war. I'm glad you chose peace. For now, Thorax said. But Admiral, I must be honest. There are many in the Concordat who still fear humanity, who still see your expansion as a threat. This peace is fragile. All peace is fragile, Chen replied. That's why we have to work to maintain it. That's why we have to keep talking, keep negotiating, keep finding ways to coexist. It's harder than war sometimes, but it's worth it. As the ceremony concluded and the delegates departed, Chen stood alone for a moment, looking at the document that ended the crisis, the Kelthera Accords. Named after the system where humanity had won its greatest victory, Rodriguez joined her. Thinking about the battle? Thinking about what comes next. The Concordat was just one threat. There are other species out there. Other powers that might see humanity as weak or dangerous. We can't win every fight with clever ambushes and superior intelligence. But we can try. Yes, we can try. And more importantly, we can keep learning. Keep adapting. Keep preparing. That's what makes humanity dangerous, Rodriguez. Not our weapons or our ships. Our willingness to learn from every experience. To adapt to every challenge. To never stop improving. The Concordat learned that lesson. They did. I hope they teach it to others. The more species that understand humanity, the fewer fights we'll have to have. Chen turned from the window and smiled. Come on, Commander. We have a long trip back to human space, and I hear Route 7 needs patrolling again. Let's make sure it stays safe. Yes, Admiral. Though I doubt anyone will try to ambush us there again. Probably not. But we'll be ready if they do. That's the lesson, Rodriguez. Always be ready. Always be prepared. Always assume someone is watching. They left the conference room together, headed back to their fleet. The war that almost happened was now a peace that might last. The ambush that failed had become a legend that would be told for generations. And throughout the galaxy, other species watched and learned. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not blind. Humanity was not easy prey. They had planned the perfect ambush and learned that humanity was waiting. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. Years later, a young human officer in the Naval Academy studied the Battle of Kelthera in her tactics class. She raised her hand. "Professor, I don't understand. How did we know the Concordat was planning an ambush?" The professor, a retired admiral who had served under Chen, smiled. "We didn't know for certain, but we assumed someone might try. We prepared for that possibility. We positioned assets just in case. We developed new technology to give us advantages, and when the ambush came, we were ready. That's the real lesson of Kelthera. Don't wait for threats to appear. Prepare for them before they arrive. Assume someone is always planning to attack you. Be ready before they strike." "That sounds exhausting," the student said. "It is," the professor agreed. "But it's also survival. Humanity didn't get to where we are by being careless. We got here by being paranoid, prepared, and very, very good at seeing through deception. Remember that when you command your own ship someday, the enemy isn't just the one shooting at you. It's the one planning to shoot at you. And if you're smart, if you're prepared, you'll see them coming before they get the chance." The student nodded, taking notes. Around her, other students did the same, learning the lessons, absorbing the wisdom, preparing for their own commands in a galaxy that was dangerous and full of potential threats, but also full of potential allies. The Concordat had become trading partners. Their scientists shared research with human institutions. Their ships patrolled jointly contested space against pirate threats. The species that had tried to ambush humanity was now working alongside them, all because Admiral Chen had won the battle perfectly, and then won the peace mercifully. All because humanity had shown both its strength and its wisdom. All because they had been waiting when the ambush came. In the darkness of space on patrol routes throughout human territory, fleets continued their missions. Sensors swept constantly. Intelligence officers monitored communications. Marines trained for every possible scenario. Humanity remained vigilant, remained prepared, remained ready, because somewhere out there another threat might be planning. Another ambush might be forming. Another species might think humanity was blind. And when they tried, humanity would be waiting, just like they were always waiting, just like they would always be waiting. That was the message of Kelthera. That was the lesson the galaxy had learned. Humanity saw everything. Humanity prepared for everything. And humanity did not lose. The perfect ambush had taught them all the truth. You cannot surprise those who are always expecting to be surprised. You cannot trap those who are always ready for traps. You cannot defeat those who have spent their entire history learning how to win. The Concordat had planned their perfect ambush. They had thought humanity was blind. They were wrong. Humanity was waiting. Humanity was watching. Humanity was ready. And humanity would always be ready. Yes, we can try. And more importantly, we can keep learning. Keep adapting. Keep preparing. That's what makes humanity dangerous, Rodriguez. Not our weapons or our ships. Our willingness to learn from every experience. To adapt to every challenge. To never stop improving. The Concordat learned that lesson. They did. I hope they teach it to others. The more species that understand humanity, the fewer fights we'll have to have. Chen turned from the window and smiled. "Come on, Commander. We have a long trip back to human space, and I hear Route 7 needs patrolling again. Let's make sure it stays safe." "Yes, Admiral. Though I doubt anyone will try to ambush us there again." "Probably not. But we'll be ready if they do." That's the lesson, Rodriguez. Always be ready. Always be prepared. Always assume someone is watching. They left the conference room together, headed back to their fleet. The war that almost happened was now a peace that might last. The ambush that failed had become a legend that would be told for generations. And throughout the galaxy, other species watched and learned. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not blind. Humanity was not easy prey. They had planned the perfect ambush and learned that humanity was waiting. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. Years later, a young human officer in the Naval Academy studied the Battle of Kelthera in her tactics class. She raised her hand. "Professor, I don't understand. How did we know the Concordat was planning an ambush?" The professor, a retired admiral who had served under Chen, smiled. "We didn't know for certain, but we assumed someone might try. We prepared for that possibility. We positioned assets just in case. We developed new technology to give us advantages, And when the ambush came, we were ready. That's the real lesson of Kelthera. Don't wait for threats to appear. Prepare for them before they arrive. Assume someone is always planning to attack you. Be ready before they strike. That sounds exhausting, the student said. It is, the professor agreed. But it's also survival. Humanity didn't get to where we are by being careless. We got here by being paranoid, prepared, and very, very good at seeing through deception. Remember that when you command your own ship someday, the enemy isn't just the one shooting at you. It's the one planning to shoot at you. And if you're smart, if you're prepared, you'll see them coming before they get the chance. The student nodded, taking notes. Around her, other students did the same, learning the lessons, absorbing the wisdom, preparing for their own commands in a galaxy that was dangerous and full of potential threats, but also full of potential allies. The Concordat had become trading partners. Their scientists shared research with human institutions. Their ships patrolled jointly contested space against pirate threats. The species that had tried to ambush humanity was now working alongside them, all because Admiral Chen had won the battle perfectly, and then won the peace mercifully. All because humanity had shown both its strength and its wisdom. All because they had been waiting when the ambush came. In the darkness of space on patrol routes throughout human territory, fleets continued their missions. Sensors swept constantly. Intelligence officers monitored communications. Marines trained for every possible scenario. Humanity remained vigilant, remained prepared, remained ready, because somewhere out there another threat might be planning, another ambush might be forming, another species might think humanity was blind. And when they tried, humanity would be waiting, just like they were always waiting, just like they would always be waiting. That was the message of Kelthera. That was the lesson the galaxy had learned. Humanity saw everything. Humanity prepared for everything. And humanity did not lose. The perfect ambush had taught them all the truth. You cannot surprise those who are always expecting to be surprised. You cannot trap those who are always ready for traps. You cannot defeat those who have spent their entire history learning how to win. The Concordat had planned their perfect ambush. They had thought humanity was blind. They were wrong. Humanity was waiting. Humanity was watching. Humanity was ready. And humanity would always be ready.